Hello everyone. Today I wanted to show you how you can create a slide, just a single slide using Google Slides that you could have students type into, insert a picture, and you can add to your Google Classroom as an assignment. The reason why I wanted to show this today is because many teachers have been talking to me about how they would love to be able to do some of their favorite project-based assignments, even though we're teaching remotely, but they just don't really know how to collect images of work that students are making while they are not on the computer. So I wanted to show you a simple way that you can do this using Google Slides. And I do like Google Slides because the formatting to me reminds me a little bit of Microsoft Office, so I'm familiar with it. So one of the first things that I do is I go to my Google Drive. So I have a bunch of tabs open. I'm going to go to my Google Drive and I'm going to create a new Google Slide. So new Google Slide. Mine is the sixth one down on the bottom. And I'm trying to use descriptive language. So if you are following along with me, you can open up this video in a separate tab and then just work in other tabs while hopefully listening to my voice. Now, just personally, one of the first things that I do is I X out the theme, and I like to get rid of these click to add titles and subtitles text boxes that are in there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that so it highlights with blue, and click delete, highlight in blue, click delete. I like to start with a blank slate. Now, I also love to print things out. So one of the things that I do with Google Slides is I like to format it to look more like a piece of paper. So to do that, you're going to go to File, and towards the bottom, third up from the bottom, it says Page Setup. Right now it says Page Setup Widescreen, but if you look closely and you click on Widescreen, it actually gives you 4 different choices. And I'm going to go down to the bottom and hit Custom. And before I hit Apply, I am going to create my own width and height. So I'm going to change that to 11 by 8.5, which is the size of a piece of paper in a landscape orientation. You could do a portrait orientation by just switching those 2 numbers around. Click Apply, make sure it's in inches. And on your screen, you will have a Google slide that looks very similar to a piece of paper. Now, I'm going to just make up an assignment that I want students to do. And I'm imagining that this is almost like a handout at first. So I'm going to say maybe first day survey. But when I am clicking in the upper right-hand side and I'm typing in the title of my document, or I'm sorry, my slide, I want to include the word original, and you'll see why in a little bit. So hit enter. Now I have my slide named, and now I'm going to go ahead and create some kind of worksheet. And this is where you can get as creative as you want. You can download templates, you can add color. I'm going to go really simple just to start. So I'm going to insert a table. So I am looking at the icons on the top of my Google Slide tab, and I'm going to go to Insert, and I go down to where it says Table, and it shows you a very light table. And in order to create your table, you actually just move your mouse along it, and I'm just going to do 4x4 square. Click on that, and it gives me this very strange little rectangle in the middle. And I just kind of drag it and I fill up my whole entire Google Slide paper I've created. And I like this option because it makes it look like a diagram. And I love to use diagrams in class. Now there are a whole bunch of icons there. One of the icons that you see next to that little paint bucket says border color. So you can make the border color black. Right next to that, there's a bunch of lines. You can make it thicker. You can start to play with this to your heart's content. There's even a format option. If you want the size to be perfect, you can play with the size and the format options. But for now, again, I'm going to try to keep it simple. And then in the boxes, you can go ahead and click your instructions. So maybe in the first box, write your name. And again, you can anything you want, but it's really cool because I'm just clicking in each little box and I can type directly in there. What's your favorite color? What questions do you have for me? I'm just making things up. You can obviously type whatever you want. And then one of the things that I like to do, especially when I'm collecting project-based images from students or they've done something hopefully not on the computer, I always reserve one spot on my Google Slide paper where I write insert image here. One of the feedback points that my students have been giving me is some of them don't have very large devices. Some of them are actually working off of a tablet. Some of them are actually using phones. So keeping that in mind, I always just click and hold down with my mouse. I highlight the entire thing, and I've been making my font a lot bigger so they can see it no matter what device they're on. And you guys can also play around with different fonts that you like. But go ahead and create your handout that you want. And then once you're done with it, I am going to go back to File, and this is one of my favorite things ever. And when you click on File, you'll see towards the middle, there's a download option. And when you hover over it, it gives you many different choices, including a PDF or a JPEG. So for our purposes today, I'm going to download this slide I just made as a JPEG. So I'm going to click JPEG. Boom. And it just downloaded it. Now this is kind of crazy, but I am going to make a second slide. So I'm going to go ahead and just for purposes of learning and review, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing again. So new, I went back to my Google Drive tab and I'm in the folder that I want. Go to new on the left, Google Slide, and this is a great review of what we just did. And it opens up a brand new presentation, but I don't actually want to present this. I'm creating a handout. Get rid of my theme, click on the text boxes in the middle. Let's start fresh, delete them, delete them, delete them. And then I always change the size by going to File, third up from the bottom, Page Setup, click widescreen and change it to custom. 11 times 8.5 inches, apply. Ooh, it looks like a piece of paper. And now, where it says Untitled Presentation, I want to change this, and I'm going to change it to First Day Survey. And this is what I am going to give my students. So, First Day Survey, no original on this one. Enter. And now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my screen, and you should see the word background kind of in the middle of the little icons there. So I'm going to click where it says background, and it brings a pop-up box, and in the center it says choose image. I'm going to click where it says choose image, and this is the hardest part for me. I want to find my First Day Survey original image I just downloaded. So I'm going to go to Upload, Browse, and you have to find your computer's download file. And, ooh, mine popped up right away, and there it is. And after you see it in the background, you have to click the yellow Done button. And this is a really cool trick. This puts an image or a handout in your background so anybody who's working with this slide cannot make changes to it. Because we all know that sometimes when you're working, you click the wrong thing, you make changes, it can be frustrating, especially if there's directions in there. You don't want your students to accidentally delete them. So this is a really cool trick. I also love this because this allows you to use your handouts that you have at home or in your classroom. You can scan them and you can insert the scanned handout into the background on Google Slides. So you've taken something that you had a hard copy of, and now you're creating it in a digital format. So that's a really cool thing. If you don't have a scanner, I'm just going to throw it out there. I love the free app Genius Scan. I think there's a paid version, but I always use the free version, and it's really cool. It syncs right with your Google Drive. So if you have handouts that you really have enjoyed using in your classroom, go grab them. Okay, back to this. So what do I do next? I'm going to insert some text boxes. So you can either go to Insert, Text Box, or you can find the little icon if you're a visual learner, and I drag and drop a text box into each space where I want students to write. And I will click, or I'm sorry, I write type here. You can change the type if you want for the students, but I actually write that. I teach middle school. I have never had a student have an issue with this part. They see type here, they delete it, and they just start typing. So all of my students have been able to do that. You can either copy and paste the boxes, or you can create your own. But again, this formatting you're probably used to if you've been using Microsoft Office products in your classroom or at home. Same kind of idea with the text box. And I put type here, type here, type here in my 3 boxes, 3 spaces, or underneath the 3 questions that you have, or how many questions you have. However, with the insert image here, I'm not going to do anything. However, I do like to include in the speaker notes some really quick directions for students. So I might write something like, to insert an image, go to insert image. Insert image is something you will want to teach your students to do. So I am going to save that. There are some great videos on YouTube that you can search where other instructors have explained how to insert images into slides. It's pretty easy. I will show you that after I show you how to turn this slide into an assignment using Google Classroom. So hang tight if you don't know how to insert an image, and I'll give you some information. But again, students are usually pretty good about that. And if you take a moment and maybe in a previous lesson show them how to do that, they're usually pretty good about it. But I will show you that momentarily. So now I have a handout that I want students to fill in. They're each going to get their own copy on Google Classroom. So I'm going to go to my Google Class page. I have my tab open. Just on a side note, I have a Google Classroom, an extra one that I set up for myself where I dump and create all my lessons in. That way, if I need to change them or edit them, I dump them in here first, and students aren't getting notifications that I've added something, changed it, changed it, changed it. So I have my Google Classroom open. On the top, I'm going to switch from Stream to the Classwork tab. I'm going to go to Create, and I'm going to go to an assignment. And then you can give it any title you want. Give it the instructions. Hopefully you know how to do this already, but if not, there's a lot of great tutorials on this. First day handout instructions. Please fill in 3 boxes and insert an image. Okay, so I put the title and the instructions there. Now I have to click the tiny Add button underneath. So I'm going to go to Add, and the first option is Google Drive. And with Google Drive, it should be your most recent document that you have open if you just made it. If not, you can always search or look around. I have my first day original, and then I also have my first day survey, and I'm going to double click that and it will add it. But stop right there. This is the most important thing. On the right-hand side, there is a drop-down menu that maybe you didn't even see. It says students can view file. Change that, because that means they can see it, but they can't type into it. They can't insert anything. So click on that, and down at the bottom, there should be 3 choices. The last choice is make a copy for each student. I will say, you can only see make a copy for each student when you are making a brand new assignment. So please, 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 just know that if you're trying to edit an assignment, this might not pop up and you might have to start again and create a new assignment. So important, make copy for each student. Okay, and then you can go ahead and on the right-hand side, decide if it's graded, how many points, when it's going to be due, what time it's going to be due, and what classes and topics you are going to add to it. Then you can either assign it right now or you can schedule it, but you can only schedule one class at a time. So go ahead and click whatever option you choose there. That doesn't matter. The only thing that matters for this is that you've made a copy for each student. And this is so cool because it will automatically attach to the assignment a individual handout for each student. So you go to assign. So when they see it, they actually will see their name next to it. And they don't even have to worry about attaching anything. So now we have our first day handout assignment. This is my teacher view, which looks a little different. But when they see theirs, they will have their own. They can click on it. It'll open up in a new tab. And they can go ahead and they can click on it and they'll be able to type. For the insert image, sometimes in the assignment, I will add a link or I do a separate lesson. But this is where they would go to insert image. If they are creating something off of the computer, they're doing some project-based work. One of the simplest ways perhaps for students to get a photograph of what they're working on into their Google Slide is to go to image, insert image, camera, and it turns on the camera on their device. Almost every device now has a built-in camera, and it's not the best quality, but I literally have students hold up their work to their camera and they click it. So I will do a silly little thing for you just so you can see. Hi, here I am. I'm holding it up and I'm going to click my picture. And I hit the little camera icon on the bottom and then I hit insert. So I've seen students do that. It's obviously not the best quality. They can click on it and they can crop it. There's a crop icon there, but at least you can see what they've been working on. You can also go to insert image. They can go to their Google Photos. If they have that, they can go to Google Drive. If they've taken it on their phone, there's different ways that they can add it to Drive from their phone. So it gets a little bit complicated. It depends what level you're working with. Older high school students are usually pretty good with their phone and they can even insert it from there. But if they are inserting any kind of image that's really basic, they can also just go to search the web if it's not necessarily project-based. And if they just need a general picture, they can search the web and do that. But again, that's probably the most complicated part of it. If you don't have time to go through with students and teach them how to insert an image, I usually just tell them go insert, image, camera, hold up your project to the camera and click the camera icon and insert. But that's a little bit tricky, especially for younger students. The good news is once they do it once, they are good to go. So I hope that helps you. You can get super creative with Google Slides and the formatting that you do. And if nothing else, hopefully you can reuse some of the resources that you've been using in your classroom and reuse some of those lessons, especially project-based lessons. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Feel free to email me if you have any questions. Take care.